Hello guys, welcome back to another Photoshop tutorial. My name is Jayla Scanlon, and this is the second part of our filters tutorial. So in the last tutorial we were looking at some of these different filters, and we got to see a few of them. So let's delete these for now because we're not going to be using them anymore. So you can select each one individually, or you can actually select all of them by clicking the top and then going to the final one that you want, hold shift and click, and then just click the delete button and it's gone. So now we're just back to our original layer. So we want to duplicate that a couple of times, so click, hold, drag it down to the new layer, or if you're on a Mac, you can hold the command button and hit J for jailers. Anyways, or on a PC you can just hold Control and click J. And so let's make a couple of duplicates, and awesome. And then we can hide those. You can click one, or you can actually click and drag down, and it, you know, gets rid of all of them. And so let's get rid of our original as well. Bring up the first layer, and we're going to play around with some of these settings. So in filter we looked at some of these already. Now we're going to check out the blur. So let's go in here, and we have, blur, blur more. That's pretty much self-explanatory. The ones we want to look at is box blur, Gaussian blur, and motion blur, radio blur. I think those would be the ones that we'll be looking at this time. So box blur, and already we're starting to see an effect, and that's because I already set it at 91 pixels. So let's bring it down a little bit, and we can actually, zoom out, and then um, notice a difference in this with the Gaussian blur, as I'll show you later on. If you notice, when this starts to blur, it looks like the blurring starts from the outside and comes in, like it's keeping contained within that box, and that's why it's called a box blur. And so this is one blur that we've played around with, and it looks pretty cool. You can see how you can use this in your projects later on. And then let's bring up another layer, and then let's hide the one we already played around with, and let's try the Gaussian blur this time. So go down to blur from filter, go over to Gaussian blur, and then let's just scroll down here, or zoom out so we can see our image. Move this out to the side, and notice that when we add the blur to this one here, instead of it coming from the outside in, it blurs everything as is. Like, it just blurs the whole image. It doesn't start from the outside in. It just blurs it from from its from its standpoint, from wherever it originally is. So that's the difference between the two. And I'm not sure if there's actually any difference between the blurs. Maybe not, but we've been able to play around with them. You could just test and see what you can come up with. Now let's go and try another blur. Let's try this motion blur. And so let's zoom out again. Notice that this has an angle degrees um, preset on this. And so let's set that to 0. And I'm guessing that horizontal lines will appear, or it will blur in a horizontal manner. And you can kind of see it, that it's shifting horizontally with the blur. And so that's what that degrees angle is for. As you can see, it looks kind of pretty. It looks pretty cool with the strokes. When you shift it to different angles, if you set it, you set it vertically, straight lines with the blur, and you can kind of see some cool effects coming out, and that you can play around with. And so that's our motion blur. And then the final one we want to look at is the radial blur. And so let's check that one out. Go to blur, radial blur, and this one, ooh, that looks pretty cool. You have two different sets. You have the spin, which gives you kind of like a ripple effect type blur, and then you have the zoom, which gives you a kind of like a Star Trek-y, uh, light beamy, whatever you want to call that. But yeah, you see what I mean. And then you have the qualities. Now, bear in mind that if you do use best quality, it will take quite a while before it previews it for you. So we'll just set this to draft at the moment, and let's try the zoom first and see what that looks like. And so I think maybe, even though it's in draft, oh, there we go. So that's the kind of effect that you'll get from the radial blur with the zoom. And so let's hide that one and bring the original one back up by scrolling down. Let's find the original, bring it back, and then let's duplicate it one more time. And then let's hide the original. Okay, let's try the radial blur again. Filter. Oh, notice that on the top here we have shortcuts. Radial blur was the last one that we used, so if you hit Control F, or if you select this, it will just mimic the exact same effect that you did in the previous effect change, and that will copy over all the different changes that you made also. So let's try this radial blur. Let's go and try the spin. It kind of might be a bit too much. Let's go to 54. And then let's hit OK, see what that comes up with. Oh, and it looks like it has to render out just a little bit, and oh, there you go. Don't know how you could use that in a project, but you know you can come up with whatever you want to do. Doesn't have to be of a photo, you can do it of different colors, and maybe it will look like an ocean ripple or whatever you want to pull off. So that's it for this tutorial with the filters. You know, there's other ones here that you can use, sharpen with the render clouds. Now, I will probably bring up another tutorial that will show you a couple of these effects, but in this tutorial we want to just pretty much talk about the different blurs that we had, and that's what we're going to cover, or that we have covered. It's already done. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. My name is Jayla Scanlon, and we look forward to teaching you more in the next tutorial.